I have wanted to make this video for a while because I have noticed something over the last 8 years of working with e-commerce brands. Some brands have enormous outlier success, whereas other brands, they really just struggle just to maintain evergreen. Now, I believe it's down to this core strategy, and it's called strategy flywheels. It's because the brands that we work with that have extreme outlier success, behind the scenes, there's a series of things that they do, but they do it continually over and over again that gets them success that builds momentum versus the other brands that kind of just like scrambling around doing a bunch of things, but none of them actually feed off each other. So what are those things? What is a strategy flywheel? Let's take a look at. So first of all, what is a flywheel? So a flywheel came from the book Good to Great. So Good to Great and the follow-up book Great by Choice is written by Jim Collins. This guy studied a series of companies over many decades to find out what makes a company that's a normal company into an amazing, great company. And he developed what he called are these flywheels. So what is a flywheel? A flywheel is something like this, where essentially it's concentric moving parts that feed off each other and each are dependent on the previous cycle. So for example, even in the marketing realm, which I'll get more specific as we go on, even in the marketing realm, in order just to make a sale, you have to do things before, right? You have to attract people. In our realm, that's the retention. So if you're an e-commerce brand, you have to get attention, okay? Then once you get attention, you have to then get some kind of emotion from them to then engage with you. Maybe that's a like, maybe that's a comment, maybe it's clicking on something, going through your link in your bio to going to your website and then actually purchasing. That is a really simple example of a flywheel. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about more advanced things than that, but technically that is a flywheel. For example, let's take a look at Amazon. So this is Amazon's flywheel. So Amazon has an amazing customer experience, and that can be in the form of a really easy to use website, really easy to use customer service. For example, if you ever had to do a return from Amazon, it's like the easiest company in the world to do a return on, right? A great customer experience that then gets traffic, and then they have people on their website who are selling their own products, selling other people's products. Sometimes Amazon sells their own products. Well, they have different sellers. And by doing that, it gives people a ton of selection to where any flavor, any deviation from what they're looking for, they can find it and buy it, which then continues that good customer experience. Of all the companies in the world, Amazon probably has the highest lifetime value of any company on the planet because of this flywheel, because these flywheels are both dependent on each other, but also the whole idea behind a flywheel is once you get it spinning, and so a flywheel is like a wheel. Once you get it spinning and you build momentum, two amazing things happen. Number one, momentum tends to keep going, right? And it's easier to keep it going. But then number two, it's nearly impossible to stop or compete with. And for example, Amazon's a really great example because the carry-on effects of these flywheels is they have faster delivery, lower prices, lower costs, and they have an infrastructure that it would be nearly impossible for anyone to truly compete with and to overtake them unless they deviate from this flywheel. So that's the idea behind a flywheel is what are the concentric strategies that are interlocking, interdependent, that once you are going through this cycle, momentum builds and it's really hard to stop the momentum. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about different kinds of flywheels. Now, there are many different types of flywheels. There are flywheels for specific marketing channels. There are flywheels that tend to lend themselves to specific business strategies or specific business plans or really just business types. But we're going to look at a few of them that are really easy to use that I've seen in e-commerce. So let's talk about some examples. Now, these examples are from brands that we have worked with or that we are working with, and they create momentum through these things. And you can have big overarching flywheels for the entire business. You can have them specifically for channels, but they're strategies, like I said, that create momentum. So for example, a giveaway flywheel. This is a really great, easy example of a giveaway flywheel. So for example, we have there's a great brand that we've worked with that they have a really great giveaway flywheel that now, is it going to make you $1 million? Potentially over time, but it has insane performance for this brand. And they could scale it up, but they choose just to keep it chugging away, and that builds momentum. So what is a giveaway flywheel? Very simple. Is they post organically that they are doing every month they're doing a giveaway. Actually, I think this is like every 2 weeks, but every month that they're doing a giveaway. And then they have people commented, there's specific rules that people enter into that giveaway, but they also take that post and they run it as an ad. So you can see right here, we're taking this post, we're running as an ad, okay? But then in order for people to enter into that giveaway, they have to tag pictures, tag videos, right? And that gets the brand free attention because people are posting of their own free will on their profile and then tagging that brand and talking about it. And then what the team does is we then take that content, use that content in more ads for evergreen products, not for the giveaway, but for evergreen products, because some of the best content you could ever run is customer generated content. And then also take that and turn it into whitelisted ads if you want to take that strategy to the next level. And then you can see that this entire little flywheel just keeps spinning. But the great thing here is that this does two big major benefits besides the actual money that they're actually earning. Is number one, it's customer engagement. What do I mean by this? Because in order to do this giveaway, and they do this giveaway all the time, it gives their customers a reason to keep paying attention because they would enter into that giveaway. And I've seen brands do this for big bundled product giveaways. I've seen brands do this for like shopping experiences, Airbnb stays. I've seen a lot of different stuff, but it keeps your customers engaged because the more you can give your customers a reason to pay attention to your brand, they will pay you in kind with their money. Number two, content. This campaign directly attributed revenues $122,000. That's just from the attribution from the Meta campaign for this giveaway. But what you don't see is you don't see the attributed revenue of the evergreen content that we're running in a separate campaign. So really, the return on this little campaign is probably $300,000 or $400,000 by itself because that content is then being used in evergreen content that also has its own budget and that is scaling, right? So you get content, that's another big benefit. And the third one is actually going to be, I'm going to call it LTV, okay? Besides the customer engagement, LTV. So the brands in this particular strategy, but the brands that I've seen do this very successfully is they're already community focused and they're community minded. And those types of brands across many different years of seeing brands who do this and those who don't, the brands that take the time to invest in the actual community of their customers have significantly outsized returns and profit than those that don't. And so just to zoom back real quick, this strategy, the benefit of it goes way beyond just the direct money, is that over time and doing it over weeks and months, it keeps building and building. And as you have more customers, more people compete in the giveaway, which gives you more content, which gives you more free attention, which gives you more content for evergreen campaigns. That's a very simple example of how just in the actual Instagram and Meta account, how you can have a giveaway flywheel. All right, next one, an irresistible acquisition offer. Now, the flywheel that I'm going to mention, I'm going to call it the product drop flywheel. We see this a lot with our brands because we work with a lot of either brands that do specific drops on a regular basis, whether that's fashion, art, tech. And so I've seen this over many years that this has an incredible flywheel. And this is the flywheel. Is you run an irresistible acquisition offer. That's it. You start with that. Now, you don't start with the entire product line. You start with just one product. Okay, not the entire store, just one product. But you do this in a way, especially if you have like several SKUs, which I'll get into in a second, but you run an irresistible acquisition offer, okay? Like here's an example of this, okay? And then the whole point of it is to pump new customer acquisition. So let's say, for example, you have a big launch coming in 3 months, and this is what we like to do, is we have 3 months, so we start running this offer and just pumping it really hard, okay? So what happens? What does that do? Well, the benefit here is you can see right here, this is a lead up to a big drop in July. What happens? The new customers kept going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. Why? Because we had an offer whose sole job was to focus on the new customers and to grow that cohort, okay, part of the flywheel. So first of all, step one. Step two, step three is then we tease that launch to the people who bought. So all these people right here of these 4 months who bought from that offer right here, we teased that we have a really big drop coming up. And what happened? We launched the new product and we also run ads, and it did something amazing like this, where from that launch, we had 9,000 returning customers and the 15,000 new, because we also turned it into ads. So those new customers will then buy from us again in months from now when we do another drop. But what's crazy is over a third, guys, I don't think you realize how crazy this is. A third of the new returning customers just from this part right here were from the previous 3 months right here. And where did those people mainly come from? Well, guess what? It came from the flywheel, from that and from this. And guys, and for this brand and for their average order value during this drop, there was nearly $400,000. That's crazy. That's a lot of money, nearly $400,000. Okay, and what finishes off the flywheel? Then, because you have so much money, so much profit, you're able to then fuel that into more inventory, another drop, and more ad spend. And so zooming out, this is a very simple product drop flywheel that we have seen this for scores and scores and scores of brands that have this model. And that is why for the brands that we work with, it's like the whole point of how this model works and how you create so much insane momentum is you have to be planning ahead and you have to be focusing on, okay, what are we going to do to ramp up the customer acquisition? Because a third of those people, when we run these offers, will buy during that product drop. And that's just insane amount of money, which then fuels more inventory, more ad spend, and then the wheel keeps spinning. So just a pause here. I think you can kind of start to see that the whole point of a strategy flywheel is how do we have these concentric strategies that interlock together that then feed off the previous step, builds momentum for the next step. So once this thing is spinning, it's really hard to stop. For example, I'm thinking of a brand, specifically a fashion brand, that we really pumped this strategy. And when they came to us, they were already a big brand. They were already doing like $800,000 a month. But over the course of a year of running the strategy over and over and over and over again, we ended up doing like over $4 million in 1 month. And I think they're our record holder. They did over $2 million in one 24-hour period because they just kept building this momentum over a long period of time. All right, what's another one? Another one is the marketing calendar for profits flywheel. So this flywheel is one that our team does a lot. And there's many different flywheels. But for example, is we find for a lot of e-commerce brands, the key part is you need to have a full calendar. Because a full calendar, or what I call marketing activations, gives you a lot of benefits. So step number one, fill out a robust marketing calendar with marketing activations and have it full, okay? Because by doing that, you always have something fresh and something new to talk about. And this is like one of the dumbest things brands do because they don't stop to think that everything we do is about attention. When we send an email, our subject line and the email's got to get attention, right? To get a click and eventually get a purchase. When we post on Instagram, on Meta, on TikTok, the whole point of it is to get attention. When we run ads, the whole point of it is to get attention. And the more you can do things to stay interesting, people will respond in kind with money. And that is why we just learned this lesson and we've really perfected of having a full marketing calendar so that there's always something to talk about, in email, in organic, in ads. And that frankly, every single month, it also makes making content, whether that's ads or organic, easier because we're just following the plan, following what that next month's marketing activation is. So that by doing that is we always have something we talk about. So there's always a reason for customers to stop the scroll, a new arrival, a new bundle offer, a new collaboration, okay? And by doing that, you always get rewarded and we can have less ads. So for example, this is a brand that's spending a lot of money. And I don't think you realize, like, this is not a lot of ads. But this brand is crushing because we have this flywheel where every single month there's something new to talk about. And we don't have to run around like crazy trying to create a ton of content. But we need less ads. And also customers respond in kind with money, okay? And this brand has an insanely high gross revenue, insanely high returning customers. Like guys, this is just the returning customers alone. Keep that in mind. This is just returning customers. This is not new because we always have something to talk about, which gives returning customers a reason to pay attention. And it also attracts new people because there's a reason why they should buy from that brand. And how does that flywheel cap off? Which then gives you more money to fuel more marketing, collaborations, activities to keep the calendar full. So even like on an overarching business level, this is a flywheel that we have seen play out by many brands. Like we worked with 350 brands over the last 7 years, and I've seen this play out more times than I could count. Doing this, just this alone, most brands would crush their entire competition. Because why? Because you're giving people a reason to pay attention. So just in a quick video, these are just simple strategy flywheels every single brand could and should be doing. And that's just some of them. There's many others besides this. But the whole point of a strategy flywheel, just to circle back, is to create momentum. By creating interlocking strategies like in Amazon, the more it spins, it makes it harder to compete with, but also makes it really hard to stop. And that is why you can make literally millions of dollars just by running strategy flywheels for your brand.